and let us all do we can to build a better future. Starting off with this interesting article that I found from MSDNC. Now, the author of this, Stephanie Rule, I get it. Your heart's in the right place. And let's actually keep it on that article real quick, okay? Don't switch it to me.
I mean, she does have like good cardiac doctor, I'm sure, so it's probably...
That too. And you know, it's interesting. It's sort of like you're seeing somebody struggle with an answer and like you're almost there. It's like Pictionary. You almost have it. You almost have the idea. I get it. And let's actually look at that title because, I mean, if there's ever an out of touch what's for brunch title, it's this. My family's COVID diagnosis shows our broken, confusing system exploits privilege. Now, real quick, no one's family.
Wait, did she say exploits privilege?
Yeah.
Did she mean to say protects?
Who knows? I don't know. But it's a really out of touch title. Now, look, I want everyone to be clear. No one, and I mean no one, even if someone I disagree with, even if somebody who's a libertarian or a Republican or even a liberal Democrat, no one should be getting this horrifying virus. This virus is real, and we need to be very careful. There's people that I know that have this virus, and I'm not, you know, there's a close family member, a friend, who died from this virus that I know of. Please, everyone, be safe. If you don't have to go outside, don't do it. Wear a mask. There's no such thing as perfect, but, you know, let's all try and be safe. But let's get started with this out-of-touch article because you're hitting the nail, but man, are you missing at the same time. By the time you finish reading this, at the rate that we're going, about 10 people in the United States will have died of COVID-19. To date, over 14.7 million have tested positive for the coronavirus. You can now add me, my husband, and our 3 children to that massive number. Despite our country's best efforts to do the right thing, the number continually rises. But what is doing the right thing really? That's something I've been grappling since my husband tested positive the day before Thanksgiving. He woke up with a headache and a minor sore throat. Normally, we'd have chalked up these symptoms to a hangover or general malaise. But given the situation, we've decided to get him tested. Masked up, I joined him for a complicated and confusing teledoc appointment. After a long wait, we were tested at an urgent care clinic. His rapid test came back positive. We weren't naive enough to think driving home without my head out the windows with 2 masks on would stop me from getting it too.
Wait, is that what she...
Yeah. We weren't naive enough to think driving home with my head out the window with 2 masks on would stop me from getting it too. Ladies and gentlemen, the link to this article is available in the show notes.
Do you mind if I just point something
out? Go ahead.
So
have fun. Today's show is going to be fun.
I might just have to pick this apart as we go through.
Go ahead.
So for that to make sense, COVID's something that it's contagious before you show symptoms. So she's like, okay, he's probably had it for a week. I'm assuming they don't sleep in different rooms and they sleep in the same room. So they're probably sleeping right next to each other, breathing in each other's air as they sleep. Yep. Would that be fair to ask? Okay.
Yeah.
And but the way to deal with it is put on not 1 but 2 masks
and have your head out the window.
Act like a dog in a car, and that will save you. Genius. A can of SpaghettiOs for this woman.
Oh no. So, if he had it, I knew that meant I did or soon would. So we need to figure out the next 2 weeks quickly. My husband immediately went back to our New York City apartment to isolate. I stayed in our New Jersey home with our 3 kids who are 14, 11, and 7, and I self-quarantined in a guest room above our garage separate from my kids. All right, look.
I love the room layout.
I know. Look.
Man, hey, everyone that's living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 5 people, just go to a different apartment that you own.
Again, look. I don't want anyone to go through this, but this is okay, lady. You're explaining about how many houses you have. Great. Some people are lucky to have a closet space right now, okay?
I decided that we would split our 2 cars. He would get one of the cars if he needed to get soup, and I would keep
Dan. Hold on, buddy. I need you to stop for a second because wait. It's going to get a little bit more
This should have been story 6. This is hysterical.
They were forced to take care of themselves while I isolated. Our generous neighbors and family dropped off meals at our doors. I'm incredibly thankful and lucky that we have this kind of support system. All right, hang on, folks. All of you, hang on too. Had we not gotten my husband tested, we could have kept our kids in school, exposing our family, our kids, classmates, and our colleagues. We were a day away from unknowingly becoming super spreaders. That absolutely terrifies me. By the end of the week, I tested positive as well. My symptoms changed by the day, but they mostly felt like a terrible flu. The worst symptoms were the fear and anxiety about what was to come and about whom I might have infected. Here again, I was privileged enough to be able to manage those fears with doctors answering my frantic phone calls and messages. And I work for a company that let me put my life on hold and focus on my health. Okay, again, very lucky lady. I do. Hold on, folks. We haven't even got to the mountain yet, Daniel. But no. This is perfectly fine because you. Hey, Dan, look at me. You're not done laughing, and neither are you.
Oh man.
Okay, but even with the support, parts of the process failed. The urgent care clinic never gave me my test results. My husband figured out which lab it used and created a patient profile online. My husband's first PCR test was never processed, or it got lost. We're still not sure. When we went home to New York, he paid $250 for another test from a private lab. Again, a luxury available only to those who can afford it. Oh, God.
It just feels like she's bragging and turning it into an article.
I know. But, it's sort of
hey, guys, I feel so privileged that I was able to drive my 2 cars and my 2 houses.
It's the norm. No, wait. The stress isn't unusual. It's a norm. Across the countries, Americans have raised the alarm for months about our haphazard testing, muddled guidelines, and the guidelines have shifted since the pandemic started. Is it any wonder that the spread continues? We're all confused. I still don't know where we got COVID-19. And forget about contact tracing calls. Making them was insanely difficult. So many of people I might have exposed didn't want to hear it. The people I came in contact with and the big box stores I spent time in seemed to have no interest when I might have exposed them. None of the stores took my temperature, but even if they had done so, it wouldn't have made a difference. I had no fever. One of the people who did take my call seriously was a woman who cuts my hair. Okay, wow, lucky. Canceled her Thanksgiving, took her kids out of school, stopped going to work, and made no money for nearly 2 weeks. Her test, which spent 3 hours waiting to get, came back 8 days later. It was negative. But how many people can put their livelihoods, and jobs on hold just to do the right thing? Yeah, go ahead.
This is a wonderful,
folks. This is a real article. It's an opinion piece, but I just thought I'd share it with you guys.
This is a gem. We may have to add this for tomorrow morning. We should defend it, but this is better than I ever imagined.
Oh, hold on, we're not even done yet.
I just want to point out the irony that she's like, I'm so lucky that I work at a place that lets me take off this time in this sort of a situation, and to make sure I made that work through, I got my hairstylist, who is not in that capacity, to do the exact same thing.
Yep.
And was she privileged enough to help pay her hairstylist for pulling her out of her life?
Hey, buddy, that's a bridge too far. You better shut your mouth on that one. Hold on, folks. We're not done yet. Oh, no. There's still more to go through? Yes. So hourly wage workers are going to work sick because they can't afford not to work. Many of their employers are ignoring the symptoms because they are trying to keep businesses alive. Testing remains a challenge, and there are no consequences for people who don't self-isolate while they wait several days to get results, especially if they have no or minimal symptoms. God. And then there are people who may know they are spreading the coronavirus and simply don't care. And any of these scenarios is possible because there is no comprehensive national containment plan. Quarantining symptom-free, rambunctious kids for 14 days can feel excessive when you are trying to manage your life, and the rules and consequences vary state to state, but even sometimes city by city, as due to mechanisms for checking up on residents. But the consequences are real, and they are everywhere. We see them in our exploding rates of infections and hospitalizations and deaths. My family's extremely lucky. God, I want to kick her in the mouth. I get what you're saying, but you're missing the point, lady. We didn't get super sick. We had access to testing, eventually got some results, and had the space and the financial stability to isolate safety. Good for you. We had supportive paying jobs and schools that can offer virtual learning. Oh wow. God, this article.
It just sounds like she's bragging.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds like she's bragging.
If I didn't have all of that, maybe it would have been a lot harder to follow the guidelines.
But I love the maybe.
Maybe.
It might happen.
Say that to the people outside, Miss Stephanie.
Tell that to your hairstylist.
Okay, what's most concerning is that our government is doing little to nothing to make these guidelines easier to follow. In South Korea and Hong Kong, a positive test means 2 weeks in government-sponsored quarantine hotel with meals provided. Here, almost the entire system is reliant on personal responsibility. COVID-19, of course, doesn't care whether you are rich, poor, black, white, young, or old. Hold on, Daniel. It doesn't care whether you're about to celebrate Thanksgiving, Christmas, or your birthday. We're told to do the right thing, but not fully or how or why. And what I've learned is the right thing gets easier the more privileged you are. The only way we can get through this is if we have a system that works for everyone. After having COVID-19, I'm convinced that we do not. Now, hold on, everyone. I hope you were listening through that entire vomit-inducing article. You want to know what you missed, Stephanie Rule? Again, you guys can see the link to the story in the show notes below to our live stream. So if this video does get clipped, in case you are,
we have to at this point.
Just check it out in our live stream where it's in our show notes in the description box below. Here's what you're missing. We need universal basic income, Miss Stephanie Rule. We need Medicare for all, Miss Stephanie Rule. We need ending student debt and medical debt right now. We need to have housing as a human right because millions and millions of Americans are at risk. You're on the point, but you're bragging in your little freaking article on how privileged you are and how tough things are. I get it, and I am sorry that your family is going through this. No one should go through it, but how dare you write an article saying how confusing the system is when millions of Americans don't even have a fraction of what you have? Who do you think you are? In what world are you living in? I get why you didn't put in universal basic income and Medicare for all. I get it. I get why. Because if you did, your bosses at MSNBC would have fired you or would have really made your life a living hell. They would have taken away all your privileged benefits. You're never going to write about Medicare for all. You're never going to write about universal basic income. And you want to know why? Because corporate media spent the last couple of years saying that it's worthless, convincing American people that it's a bad idea. It's a big idea. Is it funny now? You're lucky. You're in your ivory tower looking down at the peasants. But newsflash, the people on the ground are looking right back up at you. Daniel is the final word.
Yeah, this is a hysterical article. I really feel like listening to the entire thing now that this was like her doctor's note that she sent into NBC, and they're just like, can you rewrite this into an article? Because the entire thing's like, hey, man, I'm super privileged. Look at me. And I love the fact that she's never like, isn't it really lucky that I'm in this position? I really feel bad about all the people that aren't. It's maybe they're in a worse position. Ironically, the person whose life you've hurt the most writing this article is your hairstylist who lost 2 weeks' income, which you have pointed out in the article is something that she did. And I don't hear anything about... But I know because I'm in a privileged position that I made her pull her kids out. She was the only one that took me seriously. And so I just made sure she lost half a month's wage. Look at that. That's $1,000 she won't get back if she's lucky. This is a hysterical piece. So not only is she like, oh, well, don't worry. We had options. He went to an apartment. I went to different locations. My kids had to look out for themselves, except for all the neighbors and the support that came and gave us food and all these things. It's just a list of things that people don't have access to. If she saw content from Hardlands Media, perhaps she would have phrased it differently because we care about the regular people. She cares about herself. The story's about herself. It's about her struggle dealing with
what struggle?
Yeah, she's dealing with it in the best way. She probably has like stockpiles of food that she can eat. Her kids have people that can take care of her. She has, I'm sure, multiple cars. They have multiple places to live. She has a job. And she still manages in her place of privilege, as she points out, to cut someone else's income. She's everything. The hardest part of this process was not knowing who I infected. That was the hardest part. And so as a result, I destroyed their livelihoods for 2 weeks at a time when they probably needed that money. My guess is that the next time she sees her hairdresser, if she offers a tip at all, it's not going to be any different than the time before because, she did a favor for her by cutting her income from... There are people, and I've seen some people in the comments, I should say, that they're like, yeah, we don't even, if you're sick, it's just what you do. You can't take off work. You just have to work. That, by the way, has been a mainstay of America. That's an American process. We've covered that before the pandemic happened, that Americans go to work sick because they don't have a choice. She's just humble bragging. This entire article is just a humble brag. Oh man, it sucks so much. Good thing I had all these things covered. Kit's point also is very important about how she's not talking about solutions. The entire article is just, woe is me, listen to what I had to go through. By the way, other point of this, if she had not gotten sick or her husband had not gotten sick, she would have never thought about this, because now that it's affected her, it's something it's not just something that she writes about anymore. It's something she now preaches by and lives by because it affected her.
How sad. And I think one other thing too, just to add, I know a lot of these people in corporate media get offended easily and their feelings get hurt. Steppenwolf, it's not meant to be, we're not meaning to be angry at you on purpose. It's just, this article is so insulting to a lot of Americans that don't have even a fraction of what you have. Yeah. And if you're going to write an article like this next time, talk about Medicare for all. Yeah. Talk about universal basic income. It wouldn't kill you. Yeah, you might get fired from MSNBC because they made a career in silencing anything, progressive or big ideas. But we need big ideas now. And just relying on the government to tell you, follow these guidelines. Yeah, follow the guidelines. Wear a mask. Be safe, folks. I mean, that doesn't, it's not the end of the world. But for the love of God, seriously, think next time before you write something like this. And because this opinion piece, it's just your struggle. But since you have that privilege of being in an ivory tower, would it hurt you to descend down and actually speak for people who don't even have it? Would it kill you? And I think probably not. But if you really cared, you would talk about Medicare for all.
I would say, like, let's even pull Medicare for all out for a second. There's so many other ways you can do this. You could have written this entire article saying, wow, I'm privileged. I'm able to do these things. Wow, I'm now thinking about all the people in America who aren't privileged, who can't have 2 dwellings to live in, 2 cars, the ability for family. You could have really taken this a step further and just written, I'm in a position where this sucks, but I can deal with it, and I have a way to act, and my employer's good. But you know who we really should focus on? And this is open minded. You can still have that entitlement that you're exuding through this, and just say, but what this has really opened my eyes up to is, if this is so stressful and tough for me to go through with my. By the way, I love that she talks about her wonderful employer in the paper written by said employer.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Look at that. And so she should have written something like, but I can only imagine the people that are working, I don't know, as hairdressers, for example, that I might have cost 2 weeks of their salary. Those people are probably having it worse, and I can only imagine if it's as tough for me in here. There was none of that. This is completely a selfish article. It's about her.
It's like she probably might have been looking at the mirror while writing this article too.
It feels like they literally photocopied her doctor's note back to her article on this.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.